Most data quality dashboards look fairly impressive. Lots of metrics, lots of graphs to look at, but only a few actually help a team react in time when issues come up. So I've compiled here 4 signs that I think show that your data quality dashboard is actually good and helpful. The first principle to remember is that if the users are the first to notice, then your system is already too late. And that's why it's very important not just to keep in mind thresholds that, set a limit, like when that number is attained, it screams like red everywhere on your dashboards and you're aware that there's an issue, but your dashboard should actually show also trends, because trends are the only way that it's going to show like direction, drift, deterioration, and other things that will help you realize that things are about to become critical or that an issue is about to happen or already happening, because usually an issue doesn't just happen once. It just builds over time, and you have your first users that encounter that error, and then over time it's going to spread to other users. And that's why trends are very useful to look at, because that's going to help you notice the first spike on your graphs, and that means you're going to be able to catch issues first, before they basically shut down your whole platform. But also they give you enough time to start investigating, because if you only wait for your dashboard to signal once you've hit a certain limit, then you're going to be starting to investigate when all the users are already impacted. Instead of, if you follow the trend, you're going to have a bit more time to start investigating, and then when it spread to all the users, because obviously you might not have fixed everything by the time it spread, but at least you're going to be already in your investigation process and trying to fix this issue, and then your users are going to notice, but by the time you're already almost done fixing it, and then you can just deploy your fix, and your users are like, oh, an error happened, they wait a bit, and then everything's fixed. So they are really going to see your product as very fast-paced, and also it makes them, feel cared for, because they don't feel like when an issue happens, nothing happens for hours and hours on end. So for that, surveilling trends on your dashboard is actually very, very helpful. Now, this is a very, very common mistake, and something that anyway happens anytime there is something that is made by a tech team but used by a business team, or at least should be sometimes used by a business team, is that your dashboard should be readable by everyone. And the first step for that, it means that all the metrics, so your metric definitions, they should be shared and understood by everyone in the company. Words like data validity or what complete data means should be concepts that are defined globally in your company, so that anyone that looks at the dashboards and sees the graph that represents those metrics, they should know exactly what that means when a data is incomplete, and not just sort of be aware that it's not a great thing, but not really know the tangible impact it means for the user if such data is incomplete. That should also mean that most of your metrics should be business oriented. Obviously, it's very important to have also very technical dashboards, but those anyway are not meant to be seen by the business, but the ones that are, meant to show the overall health of your product, website, things like that. They should really focus on the metrics that matter to the user interactions with your product, because sometimes there can be a big issue or a big thing that is not working, but maybe it's something that 0.1% of users use, and then a small issue, but on a feature that is used by most of your users, and that should be known to everyone as a more critical issue. So that's why it's important to keep your dashboard as readable for anyone in the company. Very easy way to test that: when you add graphs or metrics to your dashboard, you just maybe take a time to share the dashboard and take time with maybe one person on each different units of your company, and just make them read and okay, what do you understand when you see that? If you see that number here, how do you interpret that? And just make sure that what you have in your mind is also in everyone else's mind in the company. And I think in the same vein, and also a good way to evaluate if your dashboard is readable, is that when you look at it in one glance, are you able to sort of understand what the current status of the overall health of your product is? So just if you look away, try to forget it, and then quickly look at it for a few seconds and trying to see everything on it, do you just have by a very quick look a good idea of what's happening overall in your product? Because if you're able to pick up on that when you built it in just a few seconds, that is a good indication that anyone else can pick up on the overall health within a fairly reasonable time as well. And so just a good way to remember all of the advice I just said for this part of what makes a good dashboard is just that clarity matters more than packing in more charts, adding more fancy visualization. It only matters that your dashboard is easily understandable and not that it's very pretty to look at. I would even argue that sometimes it can be a bit of a risk to have a too pretty dashboard because it can distract a bit from finding out which information is actually crucial on it. By the way, I share a lot of those practical engineering, I like to call it, ideas in my newsletter. So if you want to read more about things like this, there's a link below and you can join the newsletter for a bit more engineering smart tactics. Okay, so now we're getting a bit more into the underrated advice, or I think things that are a bit more second thoughts sometimes to data teams. And I'm going to start with that your dashboard should drive actions. So what do I mean by that? First of all, every metric on your dashboard should have an owner, which means when something critical is happening on one of the metrics, there should be a person that that's who you're supposed to talk to and raise the issue. And that's very important because often in a company, a pretty good amount of time can be lost. That's there's an issue that shows up, but it's kind of unclear who's responsible for it, who's the owner of that task. And then it takes a bit longer because you just have to ask a few people, oh, are you responsible for that? Oh, it's not you, I should ask that other person. And then just by this lack of accountability for each metric, you can lose a fair bit of time, especially for a critical issue that really matters to solve it fast. And I think that's why it's just way easier if when you define the dashboard and everything is green on it, then you define who the owners are, and that way whenever there's an issue, you know who to talk to. And not only should you know who to talk to, but I think it would also be important to define sort of path of resolutions or steps when something critical happens on the dashboard. There can be a guide for especially the most important metrics that you guys follow, that there are a list of steps that you take and a protocol on how to approach those issues or what should be done. For instance, let's say one of your feature, there's a dashboard for it that specifically tracks the access to it and how many people are on it. And you see that there's an issue in that same feature, then maybe you know that the step for that, since it's a critical issue and a critical feature, and something that you don't want people to use wrongly or data to be lost when users are interacting on it, then maybe the procedure is simply shutting down that feature until the bug is resolved. It can be really simple steps like that, but it's also very, very good to always have processes for everything, because I've seen that a lot where one person in the company has worked a lot on that feature, so whenever an issue happens, they know exactly the steps to do it, but they never document it, and then inevitably when they leave the company or they move on to a different part of the company, a different project, then suddenly all that knowledge is lost. And that's why it's really important to implement those automatic processes when issue happens, so that basically knowledge is shared automatically. So your dashboard should really make it obvious not only that there is an issue, but also that you know what to do next. And now for our last points, this is something that I sort of teased previously in the other points. I mentioned the word a few times, is that the severity or the criticality of an issue should be visible on your dashboard, because as you very, very well know, all failures on a product are not equal. Some happen on critical parts of your products, and some can have, very drastic consequences. For instance, if there's an issue in your payment system, that can cause way more issue than a small, text typo color issue somewhere on the platform. That's kind of more aesthetic, but it's not really preventing anyone from interacting the right way with your product. And so a good dashboard should always separate small incidents from the very, very serious one. And also they should show you the severity of incidents just at a glance. So for instance, it can be different levels. Usually the traditional color is green is good, red is bad, but there's a whole spectrum in between. So please utilize a gradient of severity and not just, usually it's green good, yellow sort of an issue, but not critical, and red is bad. But I think it can even be like a bit more, like 5 levels, I would say, is good for severity. Also, because a lot of time if you have one critical issue, it is possible there are other ones. So if you have those like 5 levels of color instead of just 3, it helps you prioritize a bit faster and then make sure you focus most of your energy on the very, very high priority things and then walk down the list of priority to fix those other issues. And it's also a good way to make sure that your team is not going to develop what we call alert fatigue. And that's basically just when, like, I don't know, maybe you're having a bit of like a complicated time, or you just launched a new part of your product, so more issues are going to happen and a lot of alerts are going to be directed towards a team and they're going to have to solve them. And if you don't prioritize well enough, they're going to feel like they just spend their whole day fixing things, and that is going to make them feel very pessimistically about the product, because to them what they see is just nothing is working. I spend my full day fixing things and things break all the time, like I'm not catching up fast enough. But if they feel like they're solving big issues fast and then getting to smaller issues, they're going to feel actually a sense of accomplishment. So it's also good for the morale of your team. So those were my advice to make sure that your data quality dashboard is operationally useful and not just a pretty thing to look at. Because good monitoring is not about having more metrics. It's about seeing problems early, understanding them fast, and knowing what to do next. And if you're interested in more content like this, like I mentioned a bit earlier, I have a newsletter linked at the top of the description that you can join, where I share more engineering tips and advice. And other than that, I will see you in the next video.